Welcome to where grit meets growth. Real stories of success and experiences that build the future, all in one place. With us at NorthernTalks.
Hi and welcome back to another episode here at NorthernTalks. Today we've got a very special friend of mine, a client, and someone who's been in the education industry for over 20 years, built an empire across the UK and other continents around the world, which we will touch on. I just want to say thank you very much, Mohammed, and welcome to the show. It's been a pleasure to have you on. And today we'll just walk through a little bit about yourself and just take it one step at a time and explain your journey, basically.
Sure. Thank you for having me, both of you guys. So I've been in the education sector, as you said, for nearly 20 years now, working at UK universities previously, all the way, I would say from the bottom to director of international at a couple of universities in the UK, across the UK really. And then I decided to set up my own educational consultancy where we sort of help international students who are looking to study in the UK, anywhere really in the UK for undergraduate or master's degrees. We've gone from one office to about 8 offices now in 6 different countries. So we are growing, but we're here now, and we're touch wood, we're doing okay. Yeah,
it's amazing. I know we've sat down outside of this podcast and we kind of went through your story a little bit. I want to know where it all started. I know you said you've worked in this field for 20 plus years. But talk to me about Mohammed at a very young age, leaving university. I'm guessing you went to university?
Yeah.
Okay, which university?
So I went to Kingston University, very close to where I lived. I grew up in Teddington, so Kingston was the local university at that time. I did marketing at university. Growing up, I wasn't very academic. I didn't really enjoy, I wouldn't say not enjoy, but I wasn't very academic. I'm more of a hands-on person who likes to just get stuck in and etc. But went to uni, graduated in marketing, bachelor's in marketing, and then I went into the telecoms industry.
Interesting.
So for the last 20 years, I've always been in sales, and it's just what I love, really, being hands-on, speaking to people, interacting face-to-face and etc. and, building those relationships to grow myself.
Was that always in your head about, actually, when did you actually think, right, I'm going to open my own business? Like, is that always been your kind of entrepreneur kind of thing? Is that always been there, or?
It wasn't always there. I got to give credit to my wife, who's been a sort of a driver in me making the jump. So we set up our business about 4 years ago now. And my wife's always been self-employed. She was a contractor for major banks and etc. And she's always said to me, there's going to be a ceiling, there's going to be a limit that you're going to reach. Take the plunge, take the risk, and let's do it. So credit goes to her. She's driven me to where we are. Taking that risk.
So after uni, what was it? What did you do after uni then? What was like your first kind of job like?
It was telecoms. I worked for Vodafone.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
After uni, telecoms. I
in one of the stores. In one
of the stores, I went from sort of it built on throughout my uni days, really working part time from Vodafone. But I went from part time to branch manager to area manager at Vodafone.
So it seems like you've got into an industry, you've stuck it out, you've learnt the trade, and then you've gone and excelled in every position. That's because I know what you're about to say in the next 10-15 minutes.
So failure is not an option in my book. You either make it happen or you're happy. I mean, there's 2 different, in my views, there's 2 different categories of people. There's people who are comfortable in their job, happy in their roles. Mm-hmm. They're happy earning or making what they are, and that's it. And then there's people who want to always look for the next step, who want to grow, who want to drive themselves, who want more in life, who want, to have a better outcome, really. And that's always motivated me, even now.
It's the risk factor as well, isn't it?
Yeah, even now when we set up this business, I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, finishing work about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night each day for a good solid 2 years.
The first 2 years of this business that we're about to talk about. Okay.
This business and etc.
Is that because of the time zone difference?
Not just because of the time zones, it's managing everything. You know, when you're growing your office, you're hands-on. You know, we had smaller teams at that stage and all of that sort of stuff, more hands-on with the sales, with the teams on a daily basis and all of that sort of stuff. But now we've grown a little bit. We've got country managers, office managers and all of that sort of stuff. So I look after more of the development and the university partnerships, really.
You left Vodafone, and then what was the next?
The next step was university. So I joined Coventry University.
Okay. What position was that?
That was as an enrollment manager.
Okay.
So
a career.
No, it was an.
People that enrolled students.
No, I used to manage the pipeline of business for South Asia and Southeast Asia. So I was the focal center point for all the regional managers in the business, all the international officers, all the applications, or if there was, a borderline decision that needed to be made, I made those decisions. So I did that for 9 months, and then I moved up to international officer. So that involved in traveling out to markets, managing the agents, managing the partnerships abroad, building.
Are you managing people? I want to know, because I know it, in layman terms, you're working for a university, but at what point does this university earn an income from? It's got to be the applicants, right?
Yeah, it's the students that join.
Okay, so are you overlooking the admissions side of the business?
Side of the business.
At Coventry University?
At Coventry University for South Asia and Southeast Asia.
Now it makes sense. At that
point.
Right, wow, okay. So you had a lot of South Asian applicants, I'm guessing?
It was at that point, it was one of the biggest markets for us.
I'm guessing there's other universities that bring in a lot of international students off that level.
There was, but at that point, nobody was matching Coventry University.
Wow.
It was leading the recruitment.
Is it because you were in that role?
It's not just because it was just a developed university in terms of international engagement.
Wow. So there's a gap in the market that these guys saw, and kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Believe it or not, the Coventry University went down a complete different route in terms of it didn't recruit staff from within the industry. It recruited staff with a strong sales background.
Wow.
It clearly worked, though, didn't it? That strategy was right.
It worked. Yeah. It worked. I mean, I was at Coventry University for 2 years, but once I moved over to an international officer role, I was probably out of the UK probably 9 months of the year on traveling. Sometimes I'd land on a Friday morning and fly back out on a Sunday night.
I remember you telling me this.
I used to do an average of around about 100, 120 flights a year.
Wow.
So, a lot of travel.
Were you married at that time when you were at Coventry University?
No, I wasn't.
Right, so I'm guessing that would have made life a little bit more easier.
A lot easier.
Yeah, because I can imagine if I was traveling that many times, it'd be very difficult.
Yeah, it was a lot easier. But that was at Coventry University, we were the top recruiters in South Asia, Southeast Asia. We were the number one recruiters in the UK.
Wow.
In terms of international students, in terms of volume of students coming across.
What were they applying for? Like, what sort of courses were?
It was all different courses, undergraduate, postgraduates. We used to recruit for all of the faculties: business, health and life science, engineering.
What was the defining moment, though, from there to where you are now with your kind of business? What do you feel was the actual defining moment that from that to where you are now?
There's plenty more steps along the way because, from Coventry, I joined a private education group called Oxford International.
Okay.
It was new player in the market at that particular time.
And these guys handled all universities, not just
they handle pathway of 4 or 5 universities at the moment.
Rather than you just being at Coventry, just
at Coventry.
So okay, it gave you a bigger scope, I'm guessing.
Bigger scope. Yeah, I got offered the role while I was traveling by their global sales director at a conference.
Oh wow, okay.
Bumped into him, and we were just out one evening, and he said, "How about you come and join us as a regional manager?" So I went from sort of an international officer to a regional manager without an interview. It sort of was, but it was a casual talk over dinner and food and everything. Were we? We were actually in the Philippines together.
Wow.
At this event. So yeah, no, it's been a journey. I stayed there for 5 years. I was top regional manager at Oxford International for 3 years running. Me and my team, in terms of numbers, China was always the biggest region in the education sector in terms of students coming over to the UK. But
what was your biggest nationality that went to Oxford then, if that made you the number one?
We had a lot of from India,
wow.
A lot from Pakistan, Bangladesh. We actually delivered bigger numbers than China.
Wow.
Our team. So
you've got very, very strong relationships with the universities.
We've got very, very strong relationships, but you've got to remember that business I built from scratch. So even though Oxford International is huge now, it's owned by private equity groups and etc. When I joined their division, it was nothing. It was building those relationships with the agents that I had in country and building that market up from scratch. When I joined, it was just myself as the regional manager, and then it was growing the team over the years and etc. and all of that sort of stuff. But
this was still working for that other company which you mentioned the company name, Pathway or
Pathways at Oxford. Okay. Oxford International Education Group. Yeah, they were the pathway providers. So yeah, it was a.
So at what point did you think, okay, now I need to move on to the next step?
Well, after
did you set your own company up after you were at this company then?
No, I moved on to a couple of more universities, but at director level.
Oh wow, okay.
So director of international, so looking after the whole international team. One of the universities, it was over 300 staff that I was able.
You can see step by step you're building up towards
and that's so looking after
story you can kind of
marketing,
see
budgets, staffing, policies, procedures, and then I had a phone call from a friend of mine, very good friend, who said, "Let's do this."
He was in the same industry.
He was in the same industry,
but in a different country.
In a different country.
How did he know about that? All right, he's a close friend at that time before. Okay, yeah. How did you meet him?
I met him back in 2014. I sort of helped him set up his business.
Ah, right. Okay.
Advised him at that particular time. I wasn't ready to take the jump.
And this is where your missus came in and said, it does make sense because you're hitting the director level at this university. What's the next step? It has to be surely to have your own. So I'm guessing he came in at the right time.
He did. He's always been speaking to me about doing something or making that plunge, but it was more about me being ready and comfortable.
It's about timing, isn't it, as well? Yeah,
it's about timing.
You know when the time's right.
Yeah. It was a pretty tricky time as well because, we've just had a daughter. We've just bought a new house as well in the UK. So financially, we weren't if we didn't buy the house and etc., we would have been in a lot stronger position because in our sector, it takes at least 12 months to see revenue.
Yeah.
And income. So we had to sort of weather out 9 to 12 months first of all.
That gap. Yeah.
But I was going to ask you about this because, I know we've had this conversation slightly, but what was the biggest challenge that you've had because I know when you're working at these universities, you're working as a ex position or director position or regional manager position, so you probably didn't really get to see the financial side of the business, as in what comes in, what goes out. It was basically you were employed by them.
Not really, because we had a profit and loss target as well. We know each student coming to study at our university is going to generate X amount.
Yeah. Ah, right, okay.
For example, if if the fees are 20,000, we know after expenses, cost, tuition and everything, the university is going to make 10,000, for example. Okay. So on the student numbers, we did have a profit and loss number that we needed to deliver.
What was the biggest challenge behind the scenes that universities face? When what was your biggest challenge, would you say, that people don't really get to know? Because look, at the end of the day, in the education business, it is a business at the end of the day. Schools in Dubai, it's private education. It's the same thing, really. These international students have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So
if you look at the geo of it, 70% of a UK university's revenue comes from international students.
Wow.
Not from home students.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of the funding that goes into is done by that international department.
Has there ever been a time where that's been affected? Like, as in, it's been stopped because visas were not being given? Or...
Yeah, look, there's always times where, UKVI, the UK government, they clamp down a little bit on visas and etc.
So certain countries?
Certain countries, or all countries, they're very selective. I mean, the UK is going through a period at the moment, really, of that at the moment. But there's always going to be students who want to study in the UK, and it's about finding those students who are genuine to study.
I was just going to say, you took the question right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I know there was a time in the UK, you would have experienced this. I'm just an outsider that kind of knew about it through the grapevine, but there were times where people would offer student visas for people in Pakistan, India, whatever, to study in the UK, and they were like making like I wouldn't say it was like a bogus, because I had an office in Piccadilly Gardens in Manchester, and right behind me there was a university where a lot of the Middle East used to come to learn English. But I don't know whether it was, I know it's completely different to Oxford and Coventry, but these smaller universities that were offering a so-called study visa, or I don't know what the scholarship was called, but did that ever affect your line of work? Or, because I'm guessing the more these smaller universities, overnight universities, were becoming more and more popular. Do you know what I'm referring to?
I know what you mean. I mean, with us, when I was at the universities, we worked with very selective agents.
Right.
So agents have contract with us at the university. So it's exactly the same as my business now. We have a number of contracts with UK universities who then pay us, but we get monitored on compliance rates, dropouts, and etc., and all of that sort of stuff. So
yours is more vetted through the UK normal universities, not like these universities that are coming up and saying, "Oh, you can learn English," or you can
we only work with universities, so we don't work
reputable
with
ones.
Yeah, we don't work. Most of the issues at that time were with colleges.
I think that's what I'm referring to.
So not actual universities, and we don't work with any colleges. Well, we do, but we work with top boarding schools that are...
You've got to hit certain criteria, basically, which you've got to have a level.
Yeah.
Yes.
In our industry, and it's the same as your industry, everything goes on reputation.
100%.
Yep.
And, we don't charge our clients anything.
When you say client, you mean the student?
The students.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't charge them anything. We work with the universities. We get paid by the universities. But there's a lot of, other agents in the market that take fees of students and etc.
Is that frowned upon, or is it borderline a no-go, or is it allowed? Are you allowed to do that?
Yes and no. Some universities don't like it.
Okay. Because you're getting it from both sides. Then is that?
It's integrity. I think it comes down to integrity, and it's one of the questions on when you're signing up with the university. If you are taking money or if you are charging students, you need to declare it on the agreement.
To say all right, we've taken this.
Yeah, we charge students, X amount, or we don't charge anything.
You have to be completely transparent, basically.
Completely transparent, yeah. But as a business, we don't charge any of our students anything.
But that model has obviously helped you grow your reputation as well. And
Yeah, it's
obviously it
helped
comes
us
out of it
grow our
because-
reputation, grow
Yeah.
our numbers. But we focus a lot on compliance as well. So when it comes to integrity, compliance, and all of that sort of stuff.
It's like you're saying, and you're relating it to us here. It's you hear about kickbacks, and you know you hear about agents taking upfront fees when they shouldn't be doing it, and just jeopardizing their kind of futures as well in terms of, you know, and it just doesn't look good. You know, I've had it a couple of times. Can I get people asking for kickbacks, and I say I just don't work like that. I'd rather lose that business than. And it all comes down to reputation. It all comes down to integrity. It all comes down to that transparency kind of thing as well. So I know exactly what it kind of really, really relatable to what us guys do out here as well. And not surprised that you guys are where you are now because of the kind of strategy you've used and you've stuck to them
We've
stuck
to our guns on that
yeah.
really. And
which you can see where you are now. Yeah, absolutely.
We won't budge. There's no need. Like, if we offer the right service to our students, they won't just stay with us. We have hundreds of our students referring their friends, their families to us as well. So even though we're spending X amount on marketing, so a lot of our marketing's on social media platforms, but we run a lot of in-house events in hotels and etc. and all of that sort of stuff.
But the whole experience, basically.
The whole experience. But you know, if you're having 100 students a year, each student is referring another one each. That's 100 on to your numbers for the next year without even spending on marketing.
Yeah. Wow.
So you're always growing.
Makes sense.
But it's about managing that A to Z. Absolutely. I mean, from growing the business, I think the hardest thing for us has been, you know, managing staff remotely.
I was going to ask you what your biggest challenges were, but I'm guessing that. So you mentioned, how many countries are you in now?
We're in 8 countries now.
Wow. And so talk to me about how you do that on a day-to-day when you wake up. How do you manage that?
I mean, I try to jump on as a lot of team calls as I can.
Do you find it effective?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Very effective sometimes. But we have country managers now. We have branch managers who look after the team, who monitor a lot of this stuff.
You've put these people in these positions because I'm guessing you saw that it was it because it was too much of a work overload for you?
Yeah, we needed it as we grow.
Right, okay.
We needed to grow this structure to support. So my responsibility now is growing partnerships with universities, etc., leading webinars when I need to, because we do webinars with 200, 300 prospective students.
Wow.
So doing the sort of a bigger events and...
So it's the area manager or the country manager's job to get these people to attend this webinar?
Basically. The area manager, and then there'll be a branch manager, and then there'll be counsellors.
Wow. So it's an actual full-on,
it's a step-by-step structure.
Yeah.
So how often do you go out to these countries? I'm guessing you don't fly as often as you...
No, not anymore. I go out a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
To visit, or if there's anything urgent, then I go out. I mean, I went out to Nigeria last August, and that was because we were one of the top partners for Ulster University. So they flew me over for their conference in Nigeria and all of that.
So you basically do public speaking at these universities? Or?
Universities, we go for the conference. We actually got 3 awards there.
Wow.
In Nigeria. So I think Ulster work with around about 200 agents in Nigeria.
Wow.
So, you know, to get three awards out of the 4 awards that they gave out.
Amazing.
Was a big achievement for the team there and us, really.
Congratulations. No, I think, you know, when you understand, like, we believe in the long term, even with our clients, like we believe long term, you look after the client today, the client looks after you tomorrow. I think that's from understanding what you've said today, it shows that your reputation is by far has to be your number one priority, because getting that award is like a stamp of approval in the market where people can say, hang on a minute, because I wanted to ask you, what is the biggest mistake a student makes when they're applying to study abroad? So I'm not saying what do they need to do when they go through to you, but just in general, if I was a student, you mentioned Nigeria, I'm guessing that's one of the biggest markets that you work in. But if I was in Nigeria, for example, and I was looking for um, a postgrad or master's degree in a UK university, what's the biggest mistake that I can make as a student?
I guess it's not doing thorough research. So as a student, if I was looking to study abroad, I would do research into X, Y, and Z. A lot of students know roughly what they want to study, and then they leave it down to us to recommend a university or a course, where a lot of students should be doing a lot of research as well
into which university is best for them.
Best for them, course modules and etc. and all of that sort of stuff.
Because it is a big move.
Yeah.
I mean, you're picking a university, you've never been there before, you don't know the people, you don't know the surroundings. I'm guessing your agency or your company, your consultancy firm helps with everything from A to Z.
Yeah, we
kind of take the stress away from.
Yeah, we help with application process, talking to them about their personal statements, because the students need to write their personal statements and etc. all the way through to, receiving the offer letters, making their payments to the university to secure their places, to visa applications, helping them with accommodation.
The whole transition is basically you guys are.
Whole transition.
It must be a huge help that to somebody, like I said, it's foreign, isn't it, to them? They don't.
It doesn't
somebody
stop.
to hold their hand through the whole process is a massive.
Don't forget, we're engaging with our students who are studying in the UK already. The students who reach out to me saying, "What should I do here? What's the best way to get a part-time job?" All of that sort of stuff. So
because there's different branches you can now venture yourself into. As that conversation, I want to ask you, sorry, can I rewind? There's two things I want to ask you. Where did the conversation take place before you actually set your business up? Because I know you mentioned a close friend of yours has picked up the phone and said to you, look, I want you to do this. Where did that conversation happen? Was it over the phone, or did you meet somewhere? Or
no, it was all over the phone. He was in another country, 8 hours away.
So what gave you that courage to say, I'm going to stop and I'm going to do it? I'm guessing your missus played a big part in saying, right, you need to take this plunge.
Yeah, it was. Wow. It was Mrs. really driving it. But I was at that stage, where was it that I was going to go next, really?
And it always, did you know it was always going to be the educational sector? Did you always think that this is where...
I did. I wanted to stay.
Amazing.
It was. And, the next step up, maybe not straight away, is sort of vice chancellor of international and etc. That's the next step up from director of international, and I wasn't really sort of keen on that sort of role.
Okay.
But there came a ceiling where, I was happy in my life. I was earning X amount of money, living a good life, and etc. And it was about how I could push myself. I've always been the type of person where I will push.
Challenge yourself,
challenge myself and push myself, really. And it just led to me picking up the phone and saying, right, I'm ready now. You've nagged me for the last 4 years. Let's do it. And we literally registered the company in the UK and everything within 2 weeks, I would say. Ready
you
to
can
go.
Just see each level that you've, from where you started, you've hit a certain point and you thought, right, what's next for me? You've hit a point and you've just stepped. You can just see it building and building to obviously an international kind of business. So you can kind of see your own most of it's your personal challenges.
It is.
Like you've hit your financial goals and everything you'll have hit, but you're just thinking, right, where's the next challenge?
Where's the next challenge?
And you can kind of see that coming through now as well. So
I mean, we set up the company in the UK.
Was this after COVID you set up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we set up the company in the UK in June. We opened our first 3 offices by September.
Wow. It's a quick turnaround there, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's from recruiting staff, refurb.
Amazing. Wow.
I was just going to ask you, how did you land your first client or your first student, but from what you've just said, from June till September, you've opened 3 offices like it was just all in.
Yeah, well, we were. I have a lot of friends in certain countries over the years that I've either worked with at university level and etc. And they help me source offices, putting me in touch with interior fitters and etc. Recruiting staff. So I had a lot of support from outside our business.
And you built that over the years.
Over the years, I've built those relationships where I can pick up a phone and say, this is what I'm doing.
It's amazing, right? When you look back at things now, like from an outsider point of view, how you've gone on this journey. And today you're utilizing relationships that you bumped into 5 years ago that you never knew that you needed today. Like, it's just crazy how...
That's why you never burn bridges.
Yeah, that's the moral of the story, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
I mean, in Nigeria, it was a colleague that used to report into me at a previous university. I picked up the phone and I said, looking for an office in Nigeria. Can you help? She said, I'll go and view your office. Just set up the viewings and I'll go and view the office. This was somebody that reported into me for 2 years. Not only has she developed, but I helped her get a director level job at another university. Wow. So you build those relationships, you never walk away, and she's always remembered me when I've helped her to get to this point and that point in her career. And her visiting offices, recommending staff.
Where doesn't it?
Goes a long way.
Because she's in that line of work as well.
Yeah.
So just going to ask, because everything seems to be going like swimmingly, like fine. Has there ever been a time where you thought, this isn't working? Or has there ever been a time like you've hit a rough patch? Has there ever been that kind of where you thought, you know what, maybe I shouldn't, I don't know, maybe I go back to one of my previous roles?
I'd never go back.
No, okay.
Never go back. You can't ever. That's the motto of my life. You can't go back.
Yeah, no, that's good.
You make it work.
But did you ever hit a rough patch where you thought, is this really working?
We haven't hit a rough patch. There's always been ups and downs. In any business, there's going to be ups and downs. But you make it work.
Good.
You double down. You double down. Put in the extra hours. Get the team behind you. We have a lot of incentives for our staff members and etc. A lot of us, for example, in Nigeria, a lot of staff members earn nearly 10 times their annual salaries in bonuses alone.
Wow.
So it's not just about, us as business owners making money. You want your staff to be happy. You want them to grow, enjoy
They
life.
are your business though, aren't they?
They are our business, yeah.
Can we fast forward a little bit now? Because let's just say, right, so you opened the company post-COVID. Alhamdulillah, everything's been going good. What's the next step for you now? Where do you see...
Well, the next step is for us to move. We're moving to Dubai.
Take over the world, basically.
We're moving to the UAE and all of that sort of stuff to sort of restructure, look at what we do. We might go into Southeast Asia, looking at the Middle East, Dubai, maybe Qatar.
Have you spotted a gap around here, though? Like, or what's your kind of thought process? Or why, let's put it the other way, why haven't you hit this market a little bit earlier? Or what's your
I think it's growing at a pace.
Okay.
It's being able to do things in a certain way. And I don't think we can truly break into the Middle East market without being here physically.
Yeah, for sure.
Hands-on, you've got to be more hands-on here.
I mean, I've got not a lot, but I've got Emirati friends and etc. And all of that sort of stuff who will help me and support us. But I think for the Middle East, you need to be here or you need to be close because you need to be building relationships with schools, local schools, universities, the attaché.
It's more hands-on, basically.
More hands-on. Ministry of Education out here in the UAE.
It's very different to the UK.
Yeah, it's very different to the UK. And it's more about relationship building than any other market. The Middle East.
So there's a gap here then, you see.
There's always a gap.
The GCC kind of.
Yeah, there's always a gap in every market. I mean, all these agents that are out here or across the Middle East, they started at certain points.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's about, having an expectation of maybe not growing as fast as we've grown in other countries, but growing year on year at a slower pace. But yeah.
So what was the reason for you investing in Dubai then? Because I know we've had a conversation, I think started, was it around 18 months ago?
2024, wasn't it? I think I was over here to do my visa, wasn't I? Starting setting up the company over here and, and the visa and all of that sort of stuff. So I think it was September 2024. We actually started chatting. But it was about, for us, it's, moving out of the UK to live a sort of a better life. I believe that we would have a better life out here for the family, myself, and etc. if we put work aside.
So I'm guessing a lot of your stuff you're doing remotely anyway, so it won't impact you.
No,
your move here in the next few months or the next year or so.
It won't.
It won't impact. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything I do.
It's an easy transition for you, basically.
Yeah, it's lifting us from the UK to the UAE. In that sense, but it's ultimately to have a better lifestyle, really.
So again, you think of the bigger picture now rather than just then obviously your children and obviously eventually
all of that sort of stuff.
I mean, the longer term kind of thing.
Yeah, the quality of schools out there. I mean, there's other countries we could have moved out to and etc. The tax being tax free and all of that sort of stuff makes a huge difference as well.
But the fact you're going to have to be here as well with what your future business your future is going to be
to grow this.
Yeah, so it all works hand in hand for you, pretty much.
Hand in hand. Yeah.
So that goes back to, because I was going to ask you why Dubai, but obviously it makes complete sense now.
I mean, it took me a while to make up my mind, didn't it, Ali?
I was just about to ask you, how did you find the process?
The process for me, I don't think the process was difficult because, when you come through a sales background and you're dealing with sales and all of that, I did a lot of research myself.
Yeah.
I'd sometimes go to Ali and say, look, I've done this. I've got this information. Blah. What do you think? The hardest thing was making the final decision on where to invest or where to buy, what would be good for us, what wouldn't be good.
So what you wanted, and everything that at that time, we had to look at everything. We had to look at location, we had to look at price, we had to look at payment plans, we had to look at what you wanted in the end of it. And one of the things that you kind of mentioned to me was we work remotely. We want to be able to go out with the little one, parks and walks and all this greenery. And every single time I kept saying, okay, Greenwood makes a lot more sense. Kensington makes a lot more sense. And then, of course, we went to Mazar, which your missus liked as well. I like Mazar, and I know Sakis was sold a lot in Mazar as well. So it was kind of like, which one made sense? Now, because of one location being on the border, eventually it got to a point where I think you said, Ali, I think we might even consider going towards Hayyan. And I was like, okay, it's next door to Mazar, so it's not that different really, the neighbours. And it kind of borderline the same community, in essence, just drive over the road. What made you make that final decision and say, right, Hayyan is the one? What?
I think it was a joint decision. Well, I made the decision in terms of Hayyan, but my wife had an influence in it, and in terms of she preferred the layout of the house in Hayyan.
Yeah.
We weren't really keen on the L shape layout downstairs, and that's. I'm not talking negatively about any of this. Is our preference, but we looked at Ellington as well, and they had the L shape. And some of the properties didn't match our budgets and the communities, and the L shape just didn't work for us. We wanted, an open plan squared.
I think you're referring to Shoba
Shoba.
Yes.
It might have been Shoba.
Yeah, it was Shoba Reserve. We went through a lot of developments, and I remember Shoba was one of them. And you didn't like the facade as well on Mazar.
No, it was a bit of a funny colour for us. Grey
and pink, I think it was like a
pinky. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why do you not just keep it traditional, like white or cream, or
which is what we're used to, really.
What we're used to, and Mazar was a great community, but we saw something different in Hayyan in terms of smaller community. Being in a prime location where we bought right in front of the lagoon.
Yeah, beautiful plot.
The biggest, they claim to be the biggest lagoon in Sharjah and etc. But it's only being 25 minutes, 30 minutes into Dubai downtown from where we are. So really, if we were buying, let's say in Dubai land, or if we were buying in South Dubai, we'll still be traveling 25, 30 minutes anyway.
Yeah. And we do that commute in the UK. We do, if not double that commute in the UK. Like
we travel out to Birmingham to eat a lot, and it takes us 45, 50 minutes. It's only 12 miles from where we live, and we never complain.
Exactly, yeah. Because it's Dubai, people expect everything just to be like around the corner.
But when they say, this is what I was trying, I explained this to you as well. People will say, oh yeah, it's 20 minutes from downtown, but let's be quite honest, how often are you going to go to downtown?
We're not. We'll drive up to meet friends and everybody, and from where we are, it's probably the easiest road to get where friends live.
Yeah, because everyone's on that third line.
Exactly. On that third line.
Yeah.
I guess in the whole point of you moving into a gated community, you just want everything there. You don't want to be leaving and that's the whole point of being a part of a master community. You'll have your malls, you'll have your schools. Obviously, you've got the lagoon. You're going to have the play areas. You're not really going to have to leave unless you just go to Dubai for a weekend or go to visit friends. So the whole point of you, and I know that'll be behind your decision, is you wanted to be part of a master community where you don't really have to leave every other day.
It's not just, if you look at where we've bought, it's a lot of end users are buying there.
Yeah.
So in terms of neighbours, I think we've got German neighbour, Swiss neighbour, British.
Good solid community.
Good solid community. And these are all end users. Mm-hmm. So you're going to build friendships.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're not going to have, somebody staying there for 12 months, then moving on.
Absolutely, yeah.
And etc. There's some really good schools coming up.
Yeah.
There is already good schools
in the area. Did you get in touch with that school? I can't remember the name.
Yeah, Reigate. Reigate Grammar School. It's going to just knock the UAE market for 6.
Because you're in the education industry. I knew when Arada mentioned this to us, at that time I went away and I did a bit of research. It's one of the, is it one of the largest in the UK? One of the largest private? Or is it in the top?
It's the second ranked private school in the UK.
Okay.
So if you look at that coming into the UAE, forget, Sharjah, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Russell Khaimah and stuff. That school is going to be the top school in the UAE.
Wow.
It's the school where David, Keir Starmer and everybody went.
No.
In the UK. It's going to be, they've just announced it last month officially now. So Reigate.
That they're going to open in September 27.
27.
Can I ask you, surely that should give you even more confidence in that community, because Reigate wouldn't just open up anywhere. They must have done their strategic analysis in terms of the population, because all these villas, like you said, are end users. So that's a big thing for them to get an agreement with Arada to be in their community and to target that side of Dubai in terms of Dubai-Sharjah border.
Yeah, if you look at my point of view is Sharjah didn't have communities.
Well, yeah, true, very true.
It was flats.
Yeah.
It was for those workers or expats who wanted to live and travel into Dubai. Now you've got probably 5 or 6 communities in around that area. building around that area. You've got the beachfront community as well on the other side. Sharjah's
See
stepping
the
up.
prices.
It's stepping up its game for end users. It's built for end users.
And the price that they're going for now is what Dubai was around 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
In terms of the entry level prices, you could buy, because what you bought is, if you bought that in Dubai Hills today, you'd be looking at easily over 20-25 million.
Yeah.
Because it's on the water. Dubai Hills doesn't even have a lagoon.
This is the start, I guess, of the Sharjah market. And I think, with everything happening, I think a lot of end users will look into that area now.
Yeah.
A lot of Brits are actually buying through us as well. I know the agencies are selling a lot in Arada Mazar.
Yeah.
Mazar. The reason why I keep mentioning Mazar is because it was the first ever community to hit that side. And then you got Elif, which is backed by the Sharjah government as well. And they've got a huge amount of stuff going on in Sharjah downtown, which is another part of their master community plans that they want to do. And a lot of it is more greenery.
Yeah.
So for those that are watching, I'll try putting Mazar renders up and Elif renders up. But the greenery in around the area is something that we don't really normally see in the UAE.
I think that was another factor. Mazar is very green. We've visited, we've walked around, but Alif has more trees and
more trees.
More trees. So it feels like you're not going to be in the middle of a desert.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. You can walk around. They're building a mall in the community that we've built. I bought. It's got its own mosque. It's got its own sports playground, kids playground,
clubhouse.
It's got a clubhouse. The beach around the lagoon. So it's got everything that we need.
Like Sakim was saying, you wouldn't really want to leave the location. The thing is, a lot of people, when we talk about greenery, why greenery is so important to the UAE and why the Sheikh wanted to do this as part of the 2040 master plan, it controls the temperature. It reduces the temperature down by at least 1 or even 2 degrees. I know in Expo City, it goes to around 1.5 to 2%. They quoted that the temperature reduced down by. That's a big thing, like for people just to make sure that the air is a bit more cooler, the breeze. But it makes a massive difference. It makes it more homely as well. Like you're saying, you don't want to feel like you're living in the desert.
Yeah. I mean, it took us a year to get to the point where we said, yeah, this is it. But, the more we came into Dubai over the 12 months making that decision, we realized we don't need to be in the middle.
Yeah.
We don't need to be on the doorsteps of Burj Khalifa. We don't need to be.
Because how often do you go? Like I was saying this here, remember, I was like, I've lived here for 4.5, 5 years full time and been coming back and forth over 15 years. The amount of times I've been to Dubai Mall is I can count them on my hand. Like I would never go, only if my family members came from the UK, I'll take them so they can see the fountains. That's the only reason I would go.
One of the most common objections we get is that we'll offer them something that is too far. And then when you ask them, they go, too far from what? And it's like pretty much everything's 20, 25 minutes from wherever you go. So once you put it back on, the onus back on and say, right, what is it too far from? And then they start to realize, actually, this might work for us kind of thing. And this is what I wanted to just go back to. What kind of advice would you give, let's just say UK investors, so we can relate it to yourself personally? What sort of advice? Because yours was more of an emotional decision because you're going to be an end user. So obviously there's two completely different so you're an investor and you're an end user. So what sort of advice would you give somebody? I know research is obviously massive for you, which is great because you knew exactly what you wanted.
I would say come out and have a look at, distance is one of the things that always comes up.
Yep.
Come out and have a look, travel.
Yep.
Book out 4 or 5 days where you're going into different parts.
Amazing. Absolutely.
Of Dubai or Sharjah or wherever you're going to buy, and look at the travel time. Because it's not about looking at travel time at off-peak. Look at the travel times in the morning.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy here, how long is it going to take you to get into the place of work? I mean, I'm lucky because I work from home. So, that
You don't
travel
have to
time
be here.
doesn't really matter. But if you want to live in here and you want to, you're working here, it could take you an hour and a half to get into work. And is that the type of lifestyle you want?
Exactly.
This is something that we do as well through the fact finding. So this is why you're very unique in that way, because your inquiry was, I work from home, and that changes everything, because now it's like, okay, he could live in Abu Dhabi if he really wanted to. Do you know what I mean? Like, the scope was different. When you made your inquiry, you must have been speaking to hundreds of different agents, so they must have been bombarding you.
I was speaking to. I actually went through a period. I think I told you about 7 months where I didn't pick up any UAE numbers.
I can imagine. Once you're on the database,
it was call after call after call after call, and I think that's one of the things that I appreciated with yourself was, we had the initial conversation. You knew what I wanted, and then you would update me if something new come along. A new development. Say, this is new. It may be good for you because of A, B, and C, but it may not be good because of A, B, and C. So you just didn't give me the positives.
Pros and cons, basically.
Yeah, to sell something. You told me the negatives as well.
I was going to say, what made, like, obviously you're getting tens and tens of agents ringing you, like, I'm going to put Ali on the spot here as well, but what I was just going to ask you, what made you choose?
I think
what made him stand out?
Trusting him in the relationship.
Fair enough. Yeah.
We didn't just meet in Dubai; we've met in Manchester. 2 times as well.
It's back to you when you were talking about relationships in your.
I had a lot of agents. I had a lot of people approaching me. I had agents offering me money.
Wow.
Kickbacks.
Offering
me money to go with them, and I didn't. I just believe,
unethical, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unethical. If you built up a relationship and etc. and all of that, you follow it through. Ali knows I was sometimes coming to him, asking him more questions than, other agents were dropping me this and that and etc. and all of that sort of stuff and saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But it's building that trust, and Ali never forced me into.
So he never sold you anything.
Yeah, kind of making a commitment.
Yeah.
When I was ready, I think that day I bombarded Ali with a number of text messages saying, I need to do it now. I'm ready. I've made up my mind. Let's get a deal. Let's get it done. And he never put that pressure on me, and that made me comfortable, knowing that it wasn't just about, Ali closing the deal and then moving on to the next client. He's even stayed in touch afterwards. I think we've even met in Manchester after you're
on our podcast now, so it's clearly
on the podcast. So look, I can't speak more highly of you guys. It's the trust, being ethical, and not pushing me to make a decision for the sake of closing a deal. And I think that's what I appreciated the most. And I always said to Ali, look, once I'm ready, or I know 100%, I will go with you.
I think it's more the journey. What it is, the journey that you started with me on, in terms of what you wanted, to what we got now. We were pretty much always on the same path. It was just that final step where it was either going to be Kensington. Knightsbridge even came into the equation only because the payment plan made sense. So when you were saying, like, Ali said this, and I remember saying to you, like, the payment plan here makes sense now because they changed it. I think it was like 2080 or 3070, I can't remember. But they changed the payment plan. There was some sort of discount, and we were able to push and squeeze a little bit more out of him, which made it attractive. But then again, it was double the price. It's like, does it make sense? And then the financial, the mortgage side of it, and then all that. But I do think, and I know your missus had a part in Hayyan, and looking at where you've ended up now gives me that confidence, because I know that it's part of a bigger picture now, what you guys want. and where you're gonna head into. And obviously, Reigate and all these conversations, we kind of thought about it strategically, like where would your little one go to, and it has to be a Brit. And it's just credit to obviously the community and the developer to get a high standard school like that. It's going to attract, and it has attracted more. I don't know what the term would be, but people that appreciate that level of school, because like you said it's going to be one of the biggest or one of the best schools in the UAE, which is a big statement to make. And I think them coming in that area will uplift the area as well. I know we sold a lot to Brits in Mazar.
I mean, if you look at the school, they're not just going to be in the UAE. They're already operating in Saudi. They're operating in China. And to go into China, you need to be a very good school and succeed.
Wow.
They're operating in Vietnam.
Wow. I did not know that.
And one other location as well. Any private school that breaks into China has to be very good.
They're putting their stamp towards the east now, so you're kind of seeing. Yeah.
So,
okay.
No, I think in terms of schools, it'll be fantastic for the region. Not just Sharjah, but for the UAE as a whole. And I think they will change the level of standards over here. Working in the education sector and looking into them a little bit more in detail. But yeah, no, we're happy with where we've bought. I don't think we would change it at this point. Just doesn't make sense if you look at how Dubai's expanding out. You're probably in about 7 to 8 years, you'll probably have communities. You'll probably have Hayyan, and then you'll probably have another community.
Exactly. Yeah.
Next one is in Dubai.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's I think we've made a good decision.
Because at the end of the day, look, you can't sell to everyone, like you said, and whatever's written for you is going to be written for you anyway. So as long as you go in with that belief and you're there to genuinely, and this is a big thing, genuinely there to help. That's what we are. We're there to help and guide people.
The thing is, we target the UK because we've done the same journey. So it's very, very relatable. So we know the right things to ask because we've done the journey ourselves. Whereas, and this is what, with everything going on right now, obviously a whole load of agents have just gone and probably relocated or gone back home. So the way we're looking at it is probably cleaning up the industry for us, if anything, where all these agents who are just here on a whim, who are 18, 19, 20-year-olds who come in here, just want to make money overnight and then do whatever they want. But I think now again, it comes down to that trust factor. And the industry where the stats showed there were more agents than taxi drivers. When was this? Last month, wasn't it? Yeah, just before all this everything that's happening right now, just before that, there was more real estate agents in Dubai than actual taxi drivers. So it just goes to show people are just seeing all social media sells, doesn't it? And all these young 21, 22, listen, you'll get some that are really, really good agents, but a lot of them who have left now, they won't come back because they're thinking, because you're not on a basic salary here. So you've got to come out here and you've got to do your job. You've got to be very, very ethical. You've got to build them relationships. You've got to think a lot more longer term. And again, it just leads me on to, for you, and I know you want to obviously set up an office here. So in the next, let's just say 2 to 3 years, once you made the move, have you got a plan in place now kind of thing? Or obviously it won't be solid just yet, but is there, but in the next 3 to 5 years, let's just say, what's your kind of vision, or where do you see yourself?
I think for the UAE, possibly looking for a complete service. Because don't forget, there's expats that want to go back to the UK, or a lot of the expats send their older kids back to study in the UK.
That's right. Yep.
There's a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
But it's about, I think, for the UAE, it could be opening up a subdivision of our current company and offering the complete package. Everybody needs it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants it. The stress the hassle of moving to a new country or
Absolutely,
vice versa.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that goes in your favor is UK Brit helping in the UAE. I think holding that hand and connecting that bridge from both countries, that's why it's so important for you to be here, which is what you said before. Yeah, I think it makes
works really hand in hand for you, hasn't it?
Kind of having social events, you know, networking events. Come down, let's grab something to eat. Let's, you know, go to this place and network. And you know,
this is the play. If you want to network, UAE is probably number one in terms of networking. Yeah. Huge insight, honestly. Really, really interesting stuff. Where you started to, and you can just see your kind of vision. You've always got that next step, which again, and you're always challenging yourself. And that's the difference between somebody who's going to be in a 9 to 5, which is fine, and somebody who wants to challenge themselves and go to that next level. So, and it's inspiring for us as well, you know, to have, and obviously your feedback and whatnot as well. And not just that, just the relationship out of work, like you said, you're meeting not just in Dubai. And for us, these sort of relationships, it take us a long way as well, and help build us as well, kind of thing as well. So it's hugely inspiring to hearing.
Thank you.
So really appreciate it
to be here.
Yeah.
Chatting to you guys and giving you sort of my insight, my views. Really,
it's always been something that I've always wanted to do, because you know, like whenever we used to chat, I was like, oh, imagine. I used to walk away thinking, wow, imagine if that was recorded, like some of the conversations that we've had. But honestly, no, I'm so glad I met you. Honestly, like from the start to where we are now, just picking your brains and just trying to understand your take on stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? Like this has been a very, very insightful conversation, and I've learned a lot about where you started from and how you grew because I knew certain things, but I didn't know a lot of things, which is why I kind of wanted to invite you on. But honestly, thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure. And but yeah, that's all.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man. Yep.
Thank you.
No worries.